Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. When they find a mysterious orb that houses one of the Infinity Jewels, a group of mercenaries must unite to prevent the object from falling into the hands of Thanos, who intends to disintegrate the entire galaxy. Today we will recap the story of the movie Guardians of the Galaxy from 2014. In the hospital, little Peter Quill is listening to music in the waiting room when his grandfather shows up to take him to his mother room. About to lose the fight against cancer, the boy's mother decides to give one last present to her son and gives him a box, asking him to open it only after she leaves. Practically powerless, the woman stretches out her arm and asks Peter to hold her hand, but the boy can't and just watches until she dies right before his eyes. Unable to believe it, Peter runs out of the hospital and kneels in the middle of the street to cry, but ends up being abducted by an alien ship and taken off-world. 26 years later, on an abandoned planet called Morag, Quill explores some ruins listening to music on the Walkman he got from his mother, doing ridiculous dances while facing the few creatures that still inhabit this place. After some time searching, Peter finally finds the magic orb he came for, but as soon as he touches the orb, another ship lands on the planet and soldiers disembark to take the object, asking him how he knew about the orb and what he is doing there. To Peter get out of the situation, he says that he is just a garbage collector and that he fell to the planet by accident, but the soldier doesn't believe him and says that he will take him to have a word with his leader, Ronan. Knowing he won't get away with it, Quill says he is also known by another name and reveals he is the legendary Star-Lord, a marauder famous throughout the galaxy, but Ronan's men have never heard of this name and still want to take him. With no options, Peter eliminates the two minions and shoots the guard just as he turns around, but the soldier manages to survive and gets up to fight back, nearly landing a fatal shot on Quill. To escape, the Star-Lord lies down on the ground and uses the thrusters in his hand to fly away from the abandoned temple, running towards his ship while other soldiers try to hit him. Peter throws a gravity bomb next to the guards and takes advantage of the fact that they are stuck to the ground to jump on the wing of his aircraft, sliding straight into the cockpit. At this point, the bomb is deactivated and the soldiers manage to break free, setting up a futuristic minigun that almost hits its target, but Peter manages to dodge it at the last second. Even so, Ronan's men continue firing at Quill, who manages to dodge it, but is hit by a thermal jet that sends his ship hurtling upwards, falling uncontrollably as soon as the jet of water dissipates. Peter manages to reverse the vehicle within a few feet of crashing to the ground, allowing him to escape Morag safely. As soon as he leaves the planet's orbit, Peter receives a call from Xandar, the leader of the marauding group that abducted him when he was still small, recruiting him for the team. Furious with Quill, the man says that he has arrived in Morag and that the orb is no longer there, asking Peter to pass on his location and deliver the item, but as he refuses to do so and ends the call, Xandar decides to put up a reward for it, offering 40,000 units to whoever brings it back alive. A few light years away, on the dark Aster of the Kree warships, Ronan receives his men who pass along a report about what happened on Morag, reporting that they have discovered that the Star-Lord plans to deliver the orb to a middleman known as the Broker. With this information, Ronan asks Nebula to go to Xandar to retrieve the orb, but since she knows the planet well, Gamora offers to go in her sister's place, receiving authorization from the Kree dictator to retrieve the orb and deliver it to her father, Thanos. On Xandar, a pair of bounty hunters are looking for a new target when they find Peter chatting with an alien, piquing their interest in the 40,000 bounty. Unaware of the number of people who want to get it, Peter goes to the Broker and hands him the orb, telling him about the encounter he had with Ronan's soldiers. Upon hearing the Kree's name, the Broker refuses to participate in the negotiation and returns the magic orb, kicking him out of the store while saying he doesn't want to arouse Ronan's fury. Outside, Peter meets Gamora and starts to make small talk, trying to win the daughter of Thanos without imagining that she is there to eliminate him. As Quill shows off, Gamora steals the orb and lands a kick right in the human's belly, making him scream in pain as she flees with the artifact. To prevent the woman from running away, Peter throws an optical wire that snares Gamora's leg and knocks her to the ground, allowing him to run to retrieve the object. But as he approaches, the daughter of Thanos manages to break free and lands another blow on the man, starting a sequence of punches and kicks while both are still on the ground. Trained by the Mad Titan himself, the woman manages to do better in combat and defeat Peter, but just as she is about to eliminate him, the two bounty hunters appear and save the human, saying that they will only receive the prize if he is delivered alive. While immobilizing Gamora, Rocket asks Groot to tie Peter up and put him in the bag, but the tree gets confused and traps the woman with its roots, allowing the Star-Lord to escape with the capsule. To retrieve the object, Gamora bites Rocket's paw and throws him away, throwing a knife that knocks the orb right out of Quill's hands, allowing her to keep the artifact. Peter doesn't accept the theft, however, and leaps at her with all his might, attaching one of his thrusters to the woman's leg, which begins to fly wildly. Thinking he has won, the man lets his guard down and ends up being captured by Groot, who begins to carry him away, but Gamora is already back in action and rips the wooden golem's arms off, freeing her to walk to the bag where Quill is. As soon as she touches the fabric, Peter fires his stun gun, which leaves her completely immobilized, allowing him to run with the orb in hand, but the mutant raccoon is unwilling to let him get away and shoots an energy ball at his back, causing him to fall immediately. At this moment, the Nova, the troop responsible for policing this planet, appears and arrests them all for disturbing the peace, taking them to Kiln, the prison where interplanetary criminals are kept. In line for inspection, Raccoon starts bragging about having escaped from 22 different prisons, saying that he is already hatching a plan for everyone to escape, but Gamora says she doesn't trust criminals, prompting the mutant raccoon to ask why she works with Ronan and Thanos. Gamora then reveals that she would betray them and keep the orb, since she has found a buyer willing to pay many units for the artifact. After accepting their fate, the 4 mercenaries go to the courtyard where everyone seems to want Gamora's head, because since she worked with Ronan and Thanos, many blame her for the destruction the 2 lunatics caused. At this point, one of the inmates comes up to Peter and starts threatening him, saying that he will turn the human into jelly if he doesn't obey, but Groot defends his target, lifting the bully by the nose while Rocket makes it clear that the bounty on Quill's head is theirs alone. A few hours later, everyone is asleep and Peter wakes up to the screams of Gamora, who is being carried away by some prisoners. Concerned, he gets up and begins to follow the group into the locker room, where Drax the Destroyer asks to have the honor of taking the woman's life, claiming that Ronan has eliminated his entire family and that nothing could be fairer than for him to take the life of someone who is also close to the Kree. Taking advantage of their distraction, Gamora disarms the aliens and puts the knife against Drax's neck, claiming she is not related to Ronan or Thanos, then drops the blade. Seeing the whole scene, Peter decides to meddle and tries to convince the B-series Hulk to let his wife go, saying that since his main goal is to eliminate Ronan, keeping Gamora alive will only make it easier for them to meet, since soon the Kree dictator will come to her wanting the orb back. Convinced by the human, Drax releases the woman and allows her to leave, leaving her alone with Peter, who tries to find out to whom she will sell the orb. Even though Gamora doesn't trust them, she tells them that she has found someone interested in paying 4 billion units for the artifact, so if Rocket can get them out of prison, she promises that she will take them to the buyer and split the money equally between them. From his ship, Ronan receives a call from one of Thanos' specters requesting that he come to the sanctuary to talk. As soon as he arrives at the place, the Kree reveals that he has found out about Gamora's betrayal and starts to complain to the Mad Titan, but as the specter is left answering in Thanos' place, Ronan breaks his neck, leaving Nebula impressed with his courage in defying his father. At this point, the Mad Titan finally turns his throne and begins to humiliate the Kree dictator, saying that he is nothing but a spoiled child who has failed to keep Gamora's loyalty. Still, Thanos says he will honor his part of the bargain if Ronan brings the orb, but should he show up with nothing next time, the Titan promises to bathe the sanctuary floor in his blood. Back at Kiln, Rocket makes up a plan and asks Gamora to get the access bracelet from one of the guards, allowing them to open all the doors in the place. In addition, the raccoon says that they will need to get the battery that is in one of the alarm systems, as the object will allow them to enter the command tower. However, since the item is exposed right in the middle of the cafeteria, Rocket says that they still need to think of a way to get the battery without getting caught. Completely at random, the wooden bellhop only understands that he needs to get something from inside the box and starts stretching his body to reach it, removing the security cover in front of everyone and setting off the alarm. With the alert signal, several drones are sent to the cafeteria and start shooting at Groot to make him release the battery, but since it is made entirely of wood, the mutant creature suffers no damage and take down each of the devices. To put an end to the rebellion, the guards take their most powerful weapons and advance towards the cafeteria. But at the last second, Drax decides that he will help them and knocks out the prison guards, taking one of the weapons and delivering it to Raccoon's hands so that he too can fight. Now that Groot has put an end to the stealth of the plan, Gamora rushes to the guard and asks him to hand over the bracelet, but as he says that the object is attached to his body, the woman does not hesitate to break the man's arm, taking him to Raccoon in the watchtower. Gathered together, the 5 storm the place and throw the guard away, taking control of the cabin and turning off the prison's artificial gravity, preventing the soldiers from continuing to shoot at them. Fully in control, Rocket makes the drones attach themselves to the cockpit and uses them as thrusters to carry them out of Kiln, but they end up crashing near the exit and have to run to Peter's ship. In the room where the prisoners' belongings are kept, the quintet retrieves the orb and all their belongings, but Quill realizes that his Walkman is not there and asks his companions to move on while he retrieves the cassette player. With all his equipment, Peter eliminates the guards along the way until he reaches his precious Walkman, retrieves the object, and uses his thrusters to fly to his aircraft. Inside the vehicle, Gamora says she also doesn't know what's inside the orb and tells the buyer they are coming, not knowing that Ronan is already on Kiln. Wanting to recover the object at any cost, the villain orders Nebula to send a necro ship to every corner of the galaxy looking for Gamora, and since he doesn't want Nova to know what he is looking for, Ronan orders his men to destroy the prison with everyone inside, avoiding leaving any trace behind. In Nowhere, which is the severed head of a Celestial, the Guardians of the Galaxy arrive at the Collector's Bar, where Rocket and Drax get so full of themselves that they end up fighting. Outside, Peter sees Drax beating the crap out of Groot and runs to try to separate them, discovering that it all started because they called Raccoon a monster. Realizing how much this offends him, Quill asks him to think about how rich they will become after selling the orb, reassuring the Raccoon mercenary. At this point, one of the Collector's servants goes to the bar and calls Gamora to negotiate, but they end up leaving Drax behind, who goes to the nearest radio station and sends a message to Ronan telling him his location, planning to bring him to this place to finally avenge his family. Unaware that they have been betrayed, the Guardians of the Galaxy meet the Collector, who explains that even before the creation of the universe, there were 6 singularities that, after the Big Bang, turned into gems, concentrating all the power of the cosmic explosion into small jewels capable of shaping reality. According to the Collector, the Infinity Jewels can only be carried by extremely powerful beings, granting them the power to turn entire civilizations into dust. Finally, he reveals that the orb is just a receptacle that is protecting the Jewel of Power and asks how they want to be paid, but while he is getting the units, his servant says that she is tired of this life and touches the jewel, having her body consumed by the power while cosmic fragments fly everywhere, destroying the place and disintegrating the woman's body. After the explosion, Gamora puts the jewel back in the orb and suggests that they deliver the artifact to the Nova troop, but before they can leave Nowhere, Ronan arrives with his Kree army and is challenged by Drax. Even with all his fury, the Guardian doesn't stand a chance against Thanos' Herald and is completely overwhelmed, unable to land a single punch. While Ronan humiliates Drax, Gamora and the others steal some industrial ships and begin to flee from Nebula and her army of necro ships, but since the capsules they have taken have no weapons, Rocket's solution is to literally throw the vehicles at the Kree. While Gamora tries to escape with the orb, Peter manages to get on one of the necro ships and take control, using Ronan's weapons against his own army. Completely surrounded, Thanos' daughter says that she will not be able to reach Quill's ship and decides to leave Nowhere with the industrial capsule, because according to her, on the outside she will have more space to maneuver and lose them, but this doesn't work and she is hit by Nebula, which explodes the vehicle and lets the orb be abducted by the Dark Aster. At the Collector's Bar, Drax is knocked out and thrown into a pool full of celestial blood. At this point, Nebula says that she has managed to get the orb and Ronan decides to return to his ship, letting Drax's body slowly drown, but Groot is nearby and manages to rescue him just as the villain is leaving. In the vacuum of space, Gamora's body begins to freeze and Peter decides to fly there to save her, giving his location to the Marauders and exiting the capsule, placing his mask over the woman's face and waiting until Yondu's men come to capture him. Near the bar, Rocket lands on Drax's side and puts the blame for everything on him, calling for Groot to get into the ship and get out of the galaxy before Ronan destroys everything, but the Walking Tree insists that they must rescue their companions. In the Dark Aster, Ronan reveals to Thanos that he has managed to retrieve the orb, but now that he knows that one of the Infinity Gems is inside, he backs out of the deal they made and implants the gem in his sledgehammer, vowing to personally go after the Mad Titan after he destroys Xandar. Inside the Marauder's ship, Peter is captured by Yondu, who starts beating the crap out of his former partner, deciding to finish him off right there in front of everyone, but Quill manages to convince the punk rock Megant to keep him alive by saying that Gamora knows all about Ronan's military organization, so they still have a chance to steal the jewel and make the 4 billion units. Just then, Rocket and the other Guardians arrive at Yondu's ship and start firing, giving them 5 seconds to return their friends, but Peter manages to communicate with them and tell them they are fine at the last second. Together, Guardians and Marauders devise a plan. Knowing that Ronan wants to destroy Nova's planet, and that the power jewel can disintegrate everything it touches, they must prevent the Dark Aster from landing on Xandar. To do this, they plan to drill a hole in the cruiser's hull and place 2 ships inside, but since Ronan will probably lock himself in a super secure room, Gamora plans to shut down the vehicle's power and use the Hordran Executor that Rocket created to eliminate the villain, retrieving the Infinity Jewel once and for all. But there is still one problem. Ordinary people cannot survive touching the singularity, so Gamora distributes several containment orbs that serve to store the jewel. In order to get Nova's help, Peter sends a message to one of the arresting officers to warn them about Ronan's arrival, but since they don't respond, Guardians and Raiders must start the attack alone. Led by Yondu, the group fires 2 energy spheres that crash into the force field and block the nebula's view, taking advantage of the gap to dive down and start the attack from below. At the forefront, Rocket leads the group responsible for blowing a hole in the hull of the spaceship, clearing the way for Yondu and Quill to enter, but Ronan reacts and sends thousands of Necro ships to counterattack, taking out the leader of the Marauders. At this point, the Nova troop finally goes into action and manages to shoot down all the minions, allowing the Guardians of the Galaxy to enter the Kree cruiser machine, gunning everything in their path. As predicted by Gamora, Nebula realizes that the hull has been damaged and seals the security doors, continuing the plan. From HQ, Nova Prime orders her troops to get into formation and block the cruiser, creating a force field to stop Ronan's advance. Impatient, the leader orders his Necro ships to throw themselves at the city, imagining that this way the Nova troop will get out of formation to defend the citizens, but the military maintains the force field, leaving Raccoon and the Marauders responsible for saving the civilians. Inside the Dark Aster, the Guardians advance towards the deck, while Gamora is in charge of shutting down the power source, but Nebula appears to stop them and the 2 daughters of Thanos begin to fight, exchanging blows with their futuristic swords. Near the deck, the rest of the Guardians encounter Ronan's army and also begin to fight, but thanks to Drax's gigantic strength and the Star-Lord's super stolen weapons, they manage to win without much difficulty. At this point, even more minions appear and Groot uses his powers to pierce the thorax of the soldiers, throwing them from side to side as if they were rag dolls. From his cabin, Ronan gets tired of waiting and uses the power jewel to break the force field, exploding hundreds of ships at once and wiping out the Nova troop. To help her friends, Gamora holds Nebula's electric stick and withstands the full energy discharge to disarm her, hitting a kick so hard that it sends her sister flying out of the ship, landing right on top of one of the Marauders' ships. Finally free, Gamora goes to the power supply and shuts down the Dark Aster's power, opening the safety door for her companions to reach Ronan, but he manages to withstand all the damage from the Executioner of Hadrons and decides to strike back with a blast from the power jewel, sending everyone flying away. Drax quickly gets up and rushes forward towards the Kree, who grabs him by the neck and begins to mock the death of his wife and daughter, but while he is talking, Raccoon decides to strike back and throws his ship at Ronan, causing a huge explosion in the Dark Aster, which begins to plummet. To protect his friends from the impact, Groot sticks out all his branches and assembles a wooden sphere around the Guardians, sacrificing himself to absorb the damage in their place. After the impact, the local population approaches to try to help the Guardians, but in the middle of the wreckage, Ronan comes out completely unharmed and ready to destroy the planet. But while he makes his final speech, Peter Quill starts doing another one of his ridiculous dances, distracting the villain while the Raccoon reassembles his Hadron Executor and Drax uses it to destroy the hammer. With the jewel exposed, the Star-Lord jumps in front of Ronan and takes the Singularity with his bare hands, causing his body to be slowly eroded away. To prevent him from disintegrating, Gamora, Drax, and Rocket touch the companion, splitting the damage in 4 and allowing everyone to survive the power of the Infinity Jewel. With the Singularity under control, they use the gem at full power and fire an energy beam that hits Ronan squarely, disintegrating the villain's body instantly. After the victory, Gamora keeps the jewel in one of those spheres and Yondu shows up asking for the orb, but knowing that he will sell it to someone even more dangerous than Ronan, Quill hands over one of the other capsules that Gamora distributed, making the leader of the Marauders take a simple ugly doll. With things calmed down, Nova Prime takes them to HQ and reveals that they have made several improvements to Peter's ship, as well as erasing each of their criminal records. Finally, the Guardians of the Galaxy plant a seedling with Groot's branches and depart Xandar, leaving the power jewel safely with the Nova troop. That is, at least until the arrival of Thanos, the Mad Titan. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.